Hello again and welcome back to London. It's only been about a week since I asked why has the dollar been performing so badly, and now it's already started to bounce back strongly. I've been to IG to find out why. Well, let's start by talking about the Fed. We've had some pretty clear messages from Janet Yellen and Fisher as well. What do you make of those comments? Because to me, it seems most clear guidelines we've had in a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what we've heard recently is that we're not likely to see any sort of hike in terms of June. Now it looks like we're going to see something within this year. I do feel like at the moment we're starting to see a Fed that's actually starting to put their foot down and say, you know what, we are going to actually do something in the near future. And now they're trying to focus more on saying it's going to be a gradual thing. That's something we've been hearing from the Bank of England for some time, and therefore hearing this from the Fed also gives some sort of clarity to people and homeowners and businesses out there that they can actually know that they can continue on even if we did see that first hike. But you know, the way that the markets are, everyone starts looking for that first hike, everyone starts looking for that first move. Whether we're actually going to see a big shock to the market at that time or not remains to be seen.
Yeah, what do you think's actually changed? I did an interview thinking I was being clever last week, saying what's happened to the US dollar. It's hitting 3-month lows. There'd been a run of really poor data. What do you think's prompted these words from the Fed?
I do think that people presume that a lot of those poor figures that we've seen out of the US actually kind of can be attributed to a poor Q1, the weather effects and the like. You know, we're actually starting to see some of that ease somewhat. In terms of the moves that we've been seeing in the dollar, a lot of that can be attributed to, you know, the fact that we don't necessarily see markets move in a single direction. Now, we've also seen a rise in terms of the value of oil, and obviously oil is a main driver and a main proponent of GDP in the US, especially recently. It's been one of the main reasons that it's been so strong. So where we have actually seen some significant upside in terms of oil, then they can have some sort of confidence that, yeah, you know, CPI and inflation is going to start rising. It means that, you know, there'll be more jobs and we'll have more output coming out of the US. So I think they're likely to start seeing into H2 and thinking it's going to be a lot different from H1, which has actually been somewhat weak, really.
Yeah. So what about talk about some levels in terms of the dollar? It hit a 3-month low, I think, last week or the week before. It seemed to have bounced to a month high. Where do you see it moving from here?
I think euro dollar is the key one, really, because what we've seen in terms of the resurgence of euro dollar and cable is we saw a 50% retracement of the downturn that we saw over the last, say, year, starting at the beginning of H2 of last year. So we saw a 50% retracement of that in cable. We saw a 25% retracement of that in euro dollar. Now we're seeing both of them come back off that and really starting to sell off. We've seen euro dollar actually come below that 1.1 mark. That was really notable because it marked the neckline of a double bottom formation, and now really everyone's going to start talking again about whether we're going to reach parity. And I think really it's only a matter of time. You know, you can say, all right, well, you know, maybe some strength's coming back into the euro and people are worrying about that. The fact of the matter is that we are soon enough going to see a move from the Fed and they're going to start tightening monetary policy. Now in terms of the eurozone, it's a completely different story because the eurozone has only just started its QE program, and quite frankly, I don't think the US necessarily thought they were going to be doing QE3 down the line when they were doing QE1. So we're at the beginning of QE1 for the Eurozone, and therefore that's going to impact everywhere, but really that's going to impact the Eurozone and the Euro as a whole. So I think we're going to see further weakness on the Euro. I think we're going to see further strength on the US dollar, and I think this week we're really starting to see that come back to the fore, where we're starting to take out some key levels and reversing the retracement that we've seen in the last, say, month or so.
Yeah, the euro I think is really interesting. We had the ECB come out last week saying that they thought that bond yields were getting too high, or bund yields in particular, so they're saying they're going to front load the QE, and then that completely didn't bear out in the data which we saw this week. Do you think they've effectively drawn a line in the sand at about 112, 113 where it was when they made that announcement, that that's the level where they think the euro is too strong for their liking?
Quite possibly, but to be honest, I don't think that they could really be expecting the euro to be getting too much more traction anyway. I mean, possibly they just didn't even foresee seeing these kind of moves in the first place, and they want to try and, yeah, exactly preempt any further moves and try and push it lower. Obviously, you know, a weak euro's positive for everyone within the eurozone. It means that their exports become more affordable, and it means imports from other countries are more expensive, and therefore, you know, people won't do it and people will start investing domestically. So it is worth their while to actually try and keep the value of the euro going lower, but I think everything the ECB is doing is likely to do exactly that. They don't even need to really start passing the comments that they are.
Well, thanks to Joshua for his time there. Stay tuned for more interviews and analysis, but for now, goodbye.